The telltale sign or signal I'm looking for in terms of understanding whether or not to back up the truck and buy a ton of stocks is if the VIX spikes to above 70 or 80. Now, I'm always buying stocks and ETFs, etc., and investing regardless of what the market is doing. My favorite thing to do is to buy a broken chart, but not a broken company. And a lot of people have been overselling tech lately as well for obvious reasons because the market has pulled back significantly. But the telltale sign I look for is when the VIX is above 70 or 80, which happens like once a decade maybe. And that's why that's when I lever up to it and buy stocks. Yeah. And it feels uncomfortable to do it when that occurs. And Elon Musk, who's very unemotional, and he's incredibly successful because of that. What Elon Musk did was in March of 2020, when the VIX was above 80, which is an all-time high, and everyone was freaking out about COVID, he bought a ton of shares in Tesla. And then he sold them last fall when the VIX was very low, meaning there wasn't much fear out there in the market. He did really well. You have to be unemotional. And what Elon did with purchasing Twitter, it's brilliant because all tech stocks were getting absolutely murdered because of Facebook's brutal earnings 2 quarters ago, as well as Netflix first year-over-year decline in subscribers since they shifted in 2012 to more of a subscription-based streaming business model. So every tech stock was getting crushed. And that is one of the reasons why Elon bought Twitter. Now, I humbly believe that he's going to take the company public again within 5 or 10 years. And I think his return on investment is going to be 10x. I mean, Twitter's the most important news source on the planet. And to be able to pick it up for less than $50 billion, that's pretty damn cheap. He's smart. He's smart. And there's also a borderline libertarian side of him as well. That wants everybody's voice to be heard. And I gained a lot more respect for him when he talked about this, when all the truckers in Ottawa, my beloved Ottawa where I used to live, when all the truckers in Canada were protesting freedom of speech violations. So I think that Elon is doing this first and foremost because he cares about freedom of speech, but also because he's going to make a fortune. He's going to make a lot of money off this deal. And again, I think he'll take it public in another decade or so. Now, I've never seen a commercial for Tesla. Have you? There's no commercials. They don't exist. And the genius of Elon is that he's tastefully controversial most of the time, to the extent that he's controversial so he gets free media attention. And a lot of the best business pioneers in history are the exact same way. You know, Sir Richard Branson, when he wanted to declare war on Coca-Cola, he rented a tank and drove it into Times Square. That was with Virgin Cola. Now, he wasn't successful, but speaking of Coca-Cola, this is a prop from one of my options seminars, which is in the MBA program under FA44. That's Finance and Accounting Semester 4, Class 4. But Coca-Cola has $40 billion in annual revenue, and they spend 10% of that annual revenue on advertising. So they spend $4 billion a year advertising. Well, Elon spends no money advertising. He gets free PR for being controversial. And you have to be controversial as well. That way the media pays more attention to you. Now you can do it tastefully. Like Mark Benioff, for example, what he did many years ago with Salesforce.com was he founded the company in 1999. He was the youngest vice president in Oracle history. He left to start Salesforce. And I remember him when he started his company at 99. Before the 04 IPO that I was in, I participated on the long and eventually short side and then long again. I remember how controversial he was. What he did was he made friends with 50 of the top tech and finance journalists around the world. And he'd go on their television shows, like Jim Cramer's Mad Money on CNBC. And he would say, software is dead. And nobody understood what the hell that meant. But he was very controversial. And the reason he said software is dead, and his logo in the early days was the word software with a line drawn through it. The reason he did that is because of cloud computing. You know, the whole notion of taking floppy disk drives or CDs back in 99 and load them on your computer, it just doesn't make any sense. So cloud software was the future. He was very controversial with this, tastefully controversial, as always. He's a wonderful humanitarian as well. And he's done incredibly well because of that. And so we should all take a playbook from Elon's strategy when it comes to PR. Be a little bit controversial, but tasteful as well. And this is what the best articles are like online anyway. there's usually these controversial clickbait links that we click on, and we get upset if we click it that the content's not as good as what we thought it would be. You got to be controversial. Yeah. And so Elon is probably the smartest human being that ever existed when it comes to marketing a company.